Earth Citizen Center presents How to Save the Earth. Not just part of it, the whole thing. We propose to save it with a very simple plan that changes one aspect of human life and will restore the Earth. We're going to save the Earth's atmosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere, and our own humanosphere. Altogether, they make up life on Earth. Currently, the support system for life on Earth has many problems. Ocean acidification, global climate change, depletion of fresh water and soil, many different pollutions, deforestation, and declining wildlife. These problems may seem unrelated, however, they are symptoms of a much larger problem. We are overburdening the Earth by damaging its natural systems past the point where they can renew and cleanse themselves, and by consuming resources past their renewal point. Here's just one example. The photo on the far left shows the Aral Sea in the 1980s. The photo next to it, taken 15 years later, shows the result of the USSR growing cotton in an area too dry to sustain both the cotton and the sea. So how did we get ourselves into this problem? To answer that, let's go back thousands of years ago. The number of people was insignificant when compared to the vastness of the Earth. Human activities had little impact on the natural systems. Fast forward to the 19th century. As we grew in number and became industrialized, both the number of people and our activities started to actually affect the Earth. Moving on to the 21st century, let's look at another example that had a huge negative impact. This is the Gulf of Mexico, the site of the BP oil spill of 2010. Much of the oil here dropped to the ocean bottom, ruining the ecosystem and eventually washing up on the shores for years to come. To make it worse, the chemical dispersant that was used to clean up the oil turned out to be 50 times more toxic than the crude oil itself. We are having a devastating effect on the Earth's natural ability to cleanse and renew itself. So, what are the factors that make up our human impact? The first factor is consumption. This is part of what one average American uses in his or her lifetime. 13,000 pints of milk, 5,000 newspapers, 4,000 loaves of bread, 12 cars, 900 bottles of wine, 31,000 gallons of gasoline, and 43,000 cans of soda. Oh, and by the way, if you don't drink the soda, then someone else is drinking the 86,000 other cans. The second factor that makes up human impact is lifestyle. The lifestyle choices we make every day greatly impact the Earth. An example, solar or coal is a lifestyle choice. And finally, the elephant in the room. The problem is so controversial no one wants to talk about it. Today, we're going to talk about it. It's our third factor. Population. To summarize, the three factors that make up our human impact are consumption, lifestyle, and population. Let's take a look at our out-of-control world population. This population chart was made up in the year 2000, so it stopped at 6 billion people. However, our population just a few years later is off the chart at 7 billion. As you can see, world population has been stable for most of the past 12,000 years. Taking a closer look at the meteoric rise of the last 500 years, in the year 1500, our total world population was about 500 million, or half a billion. By 1804, it had reached about 1 billion. The population had doubled. By 1927, we were up to about 2 billion. It had doubled again. By 1973, the world population had reached 4 billion and another doubling. By 2025, the United Nations is projecting our population to reach 8 billion people. With our current way of life, world population will continue to double. This is defined as exponential growth. Here is David Suzuki with a short explanation of exponential growth called the test tube.
You know, there are a lot of things that we can fix in this world. We can do something about. We can design the cities that we live in, the kinds of houses we live in, the market, the economy, currency, how many trees we're going to cut, how many fish we're going to catch. Those things human beings can manage and control because we create them and do them. But some things are facts of life we have to live with. The speed of light, gravity, entropy, the first and second laws of thermodynamics. Those are things that we have to accept and work ourselves around. And there is another one that is absolutely crucial. It's a mathematical reality called exponential growth. If something is growing at 1% a year, it'll double in 70 years. 2% a year, it'll double in 35 years. 3% a year in 24 years. 4%, 17 and a half years. Anything growing exponentially will double in a predictable length of time. Now I'm going to show you why all of this stuff about we got to keep growing, keep the economy growing, we've got to keep everything growing, is ultimately suicidal. I'm going to give you a system analogous to the planet, and that's a test tube full of food for bacteria. So the test tube and food is the planet, and the bacteria are us. Now I'm going to introduce one bacterial cell in, and it's going to divide every minute. That's exponential growth. So at time 0 at the beginning, there's one cell. 1 minute, there are 2. 2 minutes, there are 4. 3 minutes, there are 8. 4 minutes, 16. That's exponential growth. And at 60 minutes, the test tube is completely packed with bacteria and there's no food left. So we have a 60-minute growth cycle. When is the test tube only half full? Well, of course, the answer is at 59 minutes. Even though it's been chugging along for 59 minutes, it's only half full, but 1 minute later, it'll be completely filled. So that means at 58 minutes, it's 25% full. 57 minutes, it's 12.5% full. At 55 minutes of a 60-minute cycle, it's 3% full. At 55 minutes, one of the bacteria says, hey guys, I've been thinking, we got a problem. We got a population problem. The other bacteria would say, Jack, what the hell have you been smoking, man? 97% of the test tube's empty and we've been around for 55 minutes. And they'd be 5 minutes away from filling it. So, say bacteria are no smarter than humans. At 59 minutes they go, oh my God, Jack was right. We got 1 minute left. What are we going to do? Well, don't give any money to those economists that are saying we got to keep growing all the time. Give it to those scientists. So they massively inject money into the scientific community. And guess what? In less than a minute, those bacterial scientists invent 3 new test tubes full of food. That'd be like us finding 3 more planets that we could use. What happens? At 60 minutes, the first test tube's full. 61 minutes, the second's full. 62 minutes, all 4 are full. By quadrupling the amount of food and space, we buy 2 extra minutes. Our home is the biosphere. It's fixed and finite. It can't grow. And we've got to learn to live within that finite world.
So how many people can the Earth support without damaging our natural systems? Thanks to the ecological footprint, we can take a look at the answer to this question. The green line shows all the resources of the Earth that can be renewed each year. We have one Earth, and thanks largely to nitrogen fertilizer, we've been increasing our bioproductivity each year. The red line shows the resources that we consume each year. When the red line is higher than the green line, then we are in overshoot. Since around 1972, we have been consuming more resources than the Earth can renew each year. The population in 1972 was just under 4 billion people. According to the United Nations, the population in the year 2100 will be 10 billion. Living with our current vision, we are adding about 1 billion people to our Earth every 13 years. This is like adding another China every 16 years. In 1972, we were at the break-even point for renewing our resources. Today, we are well above break-even. We are at overshoot. Notice the top of this graph. In the future, we will have even more people to divide up fewer resources. So, where are these 10 billion people going to live? The answer, of course, is in cities. These are the 6 most populated cities in the world. While you're looking at these cities, think about what is the problem with living like this? The problem might be easier to notice if we exaggerated the size of the largest city, made it huge. Here is a global city. Take a look. What is the problem with living like this? Here's a hint. The problem lies in what we don't see. What is missing here? Where are the green plants that make oxygen by photosynthesis? The crops to feed us, rivers and streams for our fresh water, swamps that clean our water. Cities can only exist with a huge support system. We cannot survive in a world that is only steel and cement. Now, why are our cities getting larger and larger? Well, the answer is to house more and more people. Getting to the root of the problem, culture is how we live. It tells us what's okay to do and what's not okay. Two main ideas that make up our culture are: the more stuff we have, the better off we are. Combine this idea with the world is ours to do with what we want. Living with these two beliefs results in this: a world stuffed with people and their stuff. Although it is not our intent, our unlimited growth is putting enormous stress on the Earth's natural systems. We are overrunning the Earth's capacity to sustain us. More simply, we are overrunning the Earth. This is the future we will get if we do nothing. Do we want this future? Okay, enough doom and gloom. To have a different future, we must change our culture. To change our culture, we must change our vision of what we want from our humanosphere. Earth Citizen Center is offering a change in vision. We can restore the Earth back to the land of abundance that it once was. With this vision, we can have this future. How do we get to this future? Well, by reducing human impact on the Earth. How can we do that? Smaller families can stop our population from doubling. Today, the world's average birth rate is about 2.44 kids per family. Earth Citizen Center is suggesting a strategy that looks like this. If for the next 80 years each family chose to have one child, then world population would decline, and then increase to 2 children per family after those 80 years. And what are the results of this two-part strategy? A stable population of 1.1 billion people. Here is a population graph of this two-step strategy. Here is our 7 billion people today. Step 1 is shown by the blue line. Having one child per family for the next 80 years in all countries would drop our population to 2.3 billion. Step 2 is shown by the green line, and then increasing to about 2 children per family would stabilize our population thereafter. To clarify, Earth Citizen Center is proposing a voluntary change. If we choose to do nothing, conditions in the future could make this change a required one. Think China's one-child policy. It took 500 years to get us into this mess, and it would only take 80 to get us out. What would a restored Earth look like? Here are a few places where the Earth is already being restored. This brown line represents the Iron Curtain of the 1980s. It separated the USSR and Western Europe. This ribbon of land was guarded by men armed with machine guns. In November of 1989, when the USSR fell, the people of Europe wisely decided not to develop the land and renamed it the European Green Belt. They dramatically reduced the human impact on this land just by leaving it alone. You can see how lush and vibrant the land is now. The land can heal itself. Just 15 years ago, the Cabo Pulmo Marine Park, off the tip of Baja, Mexico, was devastated by overfishing, so they banned fishing in the area. That is, they just left it alone. By 2009, the park made a remarkable recovery. Biomass has boomed. The oceans can heal themselves. Living in the 1960s, you would be breathing dirty air in Seattle. The air is much cleaner now. because our government passed the Clean Air Act in the 1970s. In the 1950s, most people smoked. It was cool. Through a change of vision of how we live, it is no longer cool to smoke in our society. If we change our ideas or vision, we can change our culture. Once our culture changes, then we can change our laws. It is no longer legal to smoke in government buildings and restaurants, for example. Remember these support system problems that we looked at earlier? We have been attempting to solve these problems without sufficient progress because our human impact is growing so fast. No wonder we have been fighting an uphill battle. Our home is planet Earth. It can't grow. We have a critical choice. The first choice we could call quantity. Simply put, we do nothing and let the test tube scenario play out. We will end up with many, many, many people dividing up dwindling resources. And as you know, the rich will end up with plenty, and the masses will end up with not so much. The second choice we could call quality. Simply put, we voluntarily limit our family size. We will end up with a smaller population, dividing up increasingly more and more abundant resources. We must choose and choose wisely. It is time to ask ourselves, which life do we want to leave to our grandchildren? One that looks like this or this? And which earth do we want to leave their grandchildren? This or this? When I was a kid, I was full of adventure. I imagined that I flew in the Apollo 11 capsule with the astronauts and drove the lunar rover all over the moon. I was ready to jump aboard the next spacecraft traveling to an Earth-like planet, eager to explore. I looked forward to a bright future full of hope and promise. And then I grew up. My eyes opened and I saw what we are responsible for. It turns out we've been using the atmosphere as an ashtray. It enables the continuation of our industrial revolution. If you're in any doubt, here are two examples. First, coal power plants emit particles of soot, toxic mercury, and massive amounts of the greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide. Second, breathe the exhaust from your car. No, not really, it could kill you. Actually, we've been pretty lucky, because the oceans have been mitigating the effects of global warming for years. And the result? They are now much warmer and more acidic. Be glad that the environment that you live in is a city and not a coral reef. And who knows how much more heat and carbon dioxide our oceans can hold? Hurricane Sandy was enhanced by our current global warming of about 2 degrees Fahrenheit. What kind of weather will we have to look forward to when we have warmed our climate 6 more degrees, or even possibly 10 more? Our great agricultural revolution has a downside. The more crops we grow, the more our population grows. As our population grows, our human impact grows. As our human impact grows, wildlife habitat shrinks. Without our awareness, it turns out that we are in the business of growing people at the expense of wildlife, at the expense of our Earth. How much is enough? 5 billion people? 6 billion? We have already passed 7 billion. The UN is predicting, with a high degree of accuracy, 9 or 10 billion people in the future. The Earth isn't growing any larger. At some point, we have to say, okay, that's enough. Let us not get complacent. The facts are there for us to see. It is our human impact of consumption, lifestyle, and population that's overrunning the Earth. The signs are all around us. As citizens of Earth, it is time to make some changes, time to change our vision of what a great life and a wonderful society looks like. Here's a challenge for you, difficult enough for the most adventurous among us. Let's restore the Earth. Is it possible? Yes. Is it doable? Yes. Is it a worthy goal to put our focus, attention, and resources towards? You bet. Will it lessen the problems of the 21st century? Amazingly, it will. How can we accomplish this formidable task? By rearranging the values of our society. Restore the earth. There are many different ways to restore the earth. The people of Japan are already on the path to restoring the earth with their 1.6 children per family. Groups that help, educate, and advocate for poor women across the globe are on the path to restoring the earth. This kind of work helps to lower the child's mortality rate and the birth rate. Groups that work directly to reduce damage by our human impact on the Earth's support systems are doing their part too. Earth Citizen Center's strategy is to ask each family to make an important decision. Having one child is asking a lot, but the sacrifice is worth it. It will be worth it to you, your child, and the whole planet. Yes, each one of us matter. As far as reaching for the stars, remember, we are already living on an Earth-like planet. It is our job not to outgrow it. It is our job to take care of it, and it is our job to restore it. Restoring the Earth is how each one of us can leave the world a better place for future generations. This is better than reaching for the stars. This is restoring our home.